Hello and welcome to Art with Michael. Today I'm going to be starting on a new project. It's a pencil drawing of Peter Falk, and I've got my pencils here. They're all mechanical pencils. I've got a 4H, I think that might be, maybe even a 5H, a 2H, and then I'm into the Bs and I think a 6B at the end there. As far as all the background stuff goes, I'm going to be doing grid already and using this light pencil. The reason I'm using this to start the outline and the general shape is because if you look at the lines on the grid and these and this, if I use that pencil, it gets quite blunt. You use a mechanical pencil and you're in danger of putting a bit of an imprint into the paper that kind of catches. These are almost a rubbing effect. So the intent is for me to start it today, maybe get a video up, and over the course of the next week, maybe complete it. It's going to be quite interesting. He's got a very interesting face, as I'm sure you all agree. I'm going to be moving into this now, and if you would like to, you can watch this time lapse. So as you can see, I start by using the original image to give me a general indication of where everything goes. Some people do consider this cheating, but it's not very dissimilar to methods that have been used since things like the old masters, who used to have a wire grid in front of them, and you'd look through it to make sure they got proportions right. It's also very similar to just holding your pencil upright and to the side. So it just gets your things to be in the right place. Some people do consider this to be almost like tracing, but it's very difficult to trace a piece of work like this. Always, for me, start with the eyes. You always find that most things can be fixed, but if the eyes don't look right, nothing's going to look right. So I start off by going with a light pencil, one of my lighter H pencils. I use an effect, I think it's called circularism, where you do very, very small circles and you, there's my hair getting in the way a few times there, apologies. You do lots of small circles, and overall this builds up a layering effect. After I've gone over once, if there's anything that I want to be doing again, I'll to a second layer. Second layers don't show up very easily, so you might find you start pressing harder on your second and third layers. One thing anyone who's trying this themselves should know is that the level of pressure you put on the pencil, certainly for your first layer, it's like the pencil barely touches the paper. You shouldn't be pushing the pencil into the paper. You will find that you very rarely apply very much pressure at all until certainly near the end of a drawing when you're trying to get particularly dark sections. This is a very interesting image because it's Peter Falk, who famously had only one eye, and it means that the effect of getting them to match is not actually what you're trying for. Sometimes sometimes that ends up being something you really want to do, make sure that they match, and that's not really the intent here. Another interesting thing is that because his eye was glass, you do notice that there are many points during the drawing of the image that I was realizing that there were more wrinkles on the right side, his left eye, than on the right side. And that's probably due to the way he would not really need to squint, for example. So it's changed the way creases are formed. It's in things that you don't notice initially when you just look at a photo, but you do notice when you start drawing. At this point in the drawing, I've mostly used the lighter H pencils, but I have used some of the darker pencils to move into the eyes and a couple of the creases. As I go through, I do have to layer over these. Initially, lots of the image will be too light. The shadows won't really be where they need to be. It's a problem I've tried to address in some of my colour images, but I find working with colours quite difficult at this point. Hopefully over time that'll improve, but still focusing on the H's. Now we start moving into the shadows under the nose. We start using a few of the, I think I have a 4B and possibly a 6B. The pencils as I've mentioned in earlier videos, I've recently started drawing again, and these pencils have got the leads in, so I actually don't remember which leads I'd put in them. So I do have a general sense of what they are from experience, but that's where I'm up to now. At this point, the area on the far left of the image where I'm looking at the darker shadows, I really started to push some of the 4 or 6B lead into there to try and get it much darker. You start to see that develop in the last section of this video. I've tried to use the printed image to get a real sense of which bits are lighter and which parts are darker, and you could see me referencing it earlier. But there are other parts that I focus more on the digital image, because the digital image holds the gradients better. The printed version tends to go, with my printer, tends to go quite dark. So yes, we're coming up for the end of it. I have a tendency of approaching this like a jigsaw. When you're making a jigsaw, it's nice when you bring sections together to maybe work on one individual part, and then when that joins into another part, it's quite satisfying. That's the way I tend to approach a drawing. At this point, you can see me approaching a whole new section, adding it, bringing it into the rest, and then adjusting the shades accordingly. And this is where we are now. I'm quite happy with how it's going so far. I'm about to finish the face and then move into the hand. There's a hand against his face. That's a cigarette. 21st century, thought about editing it out, but it's quite a famous part of his character, so I'm not going to. He's wearing a jacket which is quite dark, so that's gonna be a long job, but necessary, I think. And after I finish that, I'll consider it complete. The hair is quite neat, so that shouldn't pose too much of a problem, as hair often does. But I am going to keep you all updated. Thank you for watching. If you're enjoying what you see, if you think you're learning anything from it, please like and subscribe. What's the worst that can happen?